A man left for work one Friday afternoon. But, being payday, instead of going home, he stayed out the entire weekend partying with the boys and spending his entire paycheck. When he finally appeared at home, Sunday night, he was confronted by a very angry wife and was barraged for nearly 2 hours with a tirade befitting his actions. Finally his wife stopped the nagging and simply said to him, "How would you like it if you didn't see me for 2 or 3 days?" To which he replied, "That would be fine with me." Monday went by and he didn't see his wife. Tuesday and Wednesday came and went with the same results. But on Thursday, the swelling went down just enough where he could see her a little out of the corner of his left eye. A British World War II pilot is reminiscing before school children about his days in the Air Force. In 1942, he says, the situation was really tough. The Germans had a very strong air force. I remember, he continues, one day I was protecting the bombers and suddenly, out of the clouds, these appeared. At this point, several of the children giggle. I looked up, and right above me was one of them. I aimed at him and shot him down. They were swarming. I immediately realized that there was another behind me. At this instant the girls in the auditorium start to giggle and boys start to laugh. The teacher stands up and says, I think I should point out that a Wolf was the name of the German fighter aircraft. That's true, ma'am, says the pilot, but these Fokkers were flying Messerschmitts. My family was talking a few weeks ago, and somehow I brought up the fact that every state in New England has a town or city in it called Warren. I said that there's a Warren, Vermont, a Warren, Maine, a Warren, Rhode Island. And my brother chimed in, there's also a Warren, Ukraine. I shook my head back and forth, then quietly admitted that I would have been so proud if I came up with that myself. The Mafia was looking for a new man to make weekly collections from all the private businesses that they were protecting. Feeling the heat from the police force, they decide to use a deaf person for this job, figuring if he were to get caught, he wouldn't be able to communicate to the police what he was doing. In his first week, the deaf collector picked up more than $40,000. He gets greedy, decides to keep the money, and stashes it in a safe place. The Mafia boss soon realizes the collection is late and sends some of his thugs after the deaf collector. The thugs drag the guy to an interpreter. The right-hand man says to the interpreter, ask him where the money is. The interpreter signs, where's the money? The deaf collector signs, I don't know what you're talking about. The interpreter tells the main man, he says he doesn't know what you're talking about us. The main man pulls out a .38 and places it in the ear of the deaf collector. Now ask him where the money is. The interpreter signs, where is the money? The deaf collector signs, the $40,000 is in a tree stump in Central Park just east of the big fountain. The interpreter's eyes light up, and he says to the thug, he says he still doesn't know what you're talking about, and doesn't think you have the guts to pull the trigger. A boss was waiting in his office one day when he noticed that all of his workers were missing. He waits a few more minutes before the first worker comes in. Why were you late? Asked the boss. Sounding exhausted, the worker says, sorry boss, but my car broke down on the way to work so I tried the bus, but the bus broke down so I hailed a cab, but the cab broke down, but fortunately I was near a stable, but the horse ran so fast it had a heart attack and I had to jog the rest of the way. The boss thinks nothing of it and sends the worker off. The next 2 workers come in to check in and the boss asks them the same question, why were you late? The workers give the boss the exact same reason, sorry boss, but my car broke down on the way to work so I tried the bus, but the bus broke down so I hailed a cab, but the cab broke down, but fortunately I was near a stable, but the horse ran so fast it had a heart attack and I had to jog the rest of the way. The boss thinks that he must be losing his mind, but sends the workers off anyways. Finally, the last worker comes in and the boss says, "Let me guess, your car broke down on the way to work so you tried the bus, but the bus broke down so you hailed a cab, but the cab broke down, but fortunately, you were near a stable, but the horse ran so fast it had a heart attack and you had to jog the rest of the way?" The worker said, "No boss, you got it all wrong. You see, there were so many broken down cars, buses, cabs, dead horses and crazed joggers in the streets, it was impossible to get through." A man goes down to a ranch to look at a horse. The rancher brings out a beautiful mare. "Can I see her teeth?" The man asks nicely. "Sure thing," says the rancher and opens her lips to show off her perfect teeth. "Beautiful. Can I see her tail and hooves?" The man asks. "By all means, partner," replied the rancher and turned her around to show her expertly manicured back left hoof and braided tail. "Lovely," the man exclaimed. "Now, can I see her twat?" "What?" asked the rancher sharply. "Her twat, sir," the man said again. "Can I see her twat?" The rancher gets furious, grabs the man by the neck, lifts the horse's tail, shoves the man's face into the mare's rear and shouts, "Get a good look, pervert." "I don't know why you did that," huffed the man exasperated. "All I really wanted was to see her win." An elderly couple was driving across the country. While the woman was behind the wheel, the couple was pulled over by the highway patrol. "Ma'am, did you know you were speeding?" the officer said. The woman, hard of hearing, turned to her husband and asked, "What did he say?" "He said you were speeding," the old man yelled. The patrolman then asked, "May I see your license?" The woman turned to her husband again. "What did he say?" The old man yelled back, "He wants to see your license." The woman then gave the officer her license. "I see you are from Arkansas," the patrolman said. "I spent some time there once and went on a blind date with the woman I've ever seen." The woman turned to her husband again and asked, "What did he say?" The old man replied, "He said he knows you." Two guys, of limited intelligence, were on a ship that sank in the middle of the ocean. They managed to inflate a rubber life raft and grab a box of provisions before their ship slipped under the surface. After floating under blazing heat for 6 days, they ran out of food and water. On the 10th day, bleary-eyed and half-dead from heat, thirst and starvation, they spotted a small object, floating toward them in the water. As it drew near, they were ecstatic to find that it was an old oil lamp, the kind that genies come in. They grabbed the lamp and rubbed it. Out popped a tired old genie who said, "Okay, so you freed me from the stupid lamp, but hey, I've been doing this 3 wishes stuff for a while now and quite frankly, I'm burned out. You guys only get 1 wish and then I'm out of here, so make it a good one." The first guy blurted out, without thinking, "Give us all the beer we can drink for the rest of our lives." "Fine," said the genie, and he instantly turned the entire ocean to beer and disappeared. "Great move," said the second guy, slapping the first guy in the side of the head. "Now we're gonna have to pee in the boat." In a fancy Paris restaurant, there is a magical wish-granting mirror. But it only grants wishes if you tell the truth. If you lie, you disappear. One day, a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead enter the restaurant and decide to try out the mirror. The brunette goes first. "I think I'm the smartest woman on earth." Poof. She disappears. The redhead goes up to try. "I think I'm the prettiest woman on earth." Poof. She disappears. The blonde goes up. "I think." Poof. A police chief, a fire chief, and a city manager were traveling together by car to a municipal management conference in a distant city. Their car broke down in a rural area, and they were forced to seek shelter for the night at a nearby farmhouse. The farmer welcomed them in, but cautioned them that there were only 2 spare beds, and that one of them would have to sleep in the barn with the farm animals. After a short conference, the police chief agreed to take the barn. Shortly after retiring, a knock was heard on the door of the farmhouse. The party inside answered to find the police chief standing there, complaining that he could not sleep. There were pigs in the barn, he said, and he was reminded of the days when everyone called him a pig. The fire chief then volunteered to exchange with the police chief. A short time later, another knock was heard at the door. The fire chief complained that the cows in the barn reminded him of Mrs. O'Leary's cow that started the Chicago fire, and that every time he started to go to sleep, he started to have a fireman's worst nightmare, that of burning to death. The city attorney, in desperation for sleep, then agreed to sleep in the barn. This seemed like a good idea until a few minutes later, when another knock was heard at the door. When the occupants answered the door, there stood the very indignant cows and pigs. Hey there, I put a lot effort into making these videos, so please subscribe for more jokes and stay happy, thank you.